Hello, this is Tradesight Stock Market Preview for Friday, December 6, 2013. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal 11. This is a preview for the last day of the week going into the non-farm payroll and employment data. I'll show you the data that's due out at the end of the presentation here. Meanwhile, here's the S&P 500 index, and you can see that we never got a 13 sell signal. They cleverly sold off the S&P last week on Wednesday and Friday, just at the end of the session, just enough to keep us from getting our 13 sell signal in place on the S&P, but we have been down this week anyways. Meanwhile, the NDX has drifted sideways more or less this week and still doesn't have a 13 sell signal in place either. Monday was the 12, and they just couldn't get the 13. So we could still get that with any kind of move up here on Friday, and possibly even get it on the S&P as well. Note that we looked like we were going to get a 9-bar setup complete to the upside here on the NDX today, but if I go to projection mode and show you what it looks like with the day now over, we actually got a price flip, so we've got a downward count beginning, which is kind of interesting. SOX index has been just dead sideways for a while now since the 13 sell signal never breached the pink risk line. And here's the biotech index, which isn't really showing any construction either way. If anything, there's an inverted cup and handle and lower on the biotech if it breaks into that gap under 22.80. Meanwhile, here's Apple, which had a 13 sell signal yesterday or 2 days ago. And now, you're going to hear a loud noise, but when I put this in projection mode, we now have a 9-bar setup complete with the risk line above it. So anyways, something to keep an eye on here is Apple potentially rolling over. Again, the only caveat with all this stuff is that we're in that time of year where the stocks that are up for the year, and Apple's not even up that much because it sold off earlier in the year, but the stocks that are up for the year, nobody wants to sell and lock in the gains. So you get less of the roll here that you would usually expect potentially until we get closer to the last week. And of course, the last week of the year, probably the last 2 weeks with Christmas on a Wednesday and New Year's on a Wednesday, they're going to be real light on volume. A lot of people just aren't going to be trading. I expect some flat action there. So, are you going to get a rollover in the next 2 weeks before that? That's hard to say. So let's look at some of the other stocks that we'd like to follow. Google's been really flat. I'm pointing this out on the 15-minute chart in the lab today. This 15-minute chart of Google going back to last week, that's pretty narrow range for Google. Pretty flat. So there's not a lot going on there. And some of these other stocks are the same way. Let's take a look at our newer trader, Twitter, heading up actually, which is interesting. Never really broke down, but I don't know if that's going to hold once the extra shares come back out. Let's take a look at Amazon, up near highs. Did have a couple-day pullback, and again, one that couldn't get a 12 sell signal. At any rate, or a 13 sell signal. Let's look also at the intra-week action so far. This is the futures, the ES with 10-minute bars. You'll notice this is Thursday's action, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Mondays, and then last week's holiday stuff. So we did kind of set off a little bit Monday. Tuesday was a little more aggressive. We got a buy signal on the 10-minute chart at the low on Tuesday. That led to a rally and some wilder action Wednesday. We eventually broke down. Wednesday was a good day for us. We had nice trades on the futures, stocks, everything. Forex made money this week. And then Tuesday was okay. We still had some decent trading. Monday was a little light. Unfortunately, Thursday got very, very light. It was a very flat day. It wasn't a lot going on. So you can see the low on Thursday was actually the static trend line of the 9-bar move up that occurred on Wednesday. That's pretty technical action. It's hard to believe we're going to see much on Friday with the non-farm payroll data due. Here's a look at all the data that's due out on Friday, everything for December 6th. So we've got non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, hourly earnings, average work week. The non-farm payroll data due at 188,000. That's the big one, of course, in there. Same time, we get personal income and spending, and then an inflation gauge, which is the PCE prices core. 25 minutes into the market, we got Michigan sentiment preliminary for December, and then consumer credit at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Will that give us some action in the morning? Maybe that's why we were so flat Thursday waiting for this data. It's obviously important data. It could very well be that that's what's going on. That's what we're going to see. But I don't expect much in the afternoon. Afternoons on Fridays in summer and mostly in December are not that exciting. So, whatever we get in the morning is probably all we're going to see. That's it. Everybody have a great trading week, and we'll talk to you in the lab on Friday.